Imagine you're in Richardson, Texas, a quiet suburb just north of Dallas. Nice neighborhood, good schools, and someone quietly opens the doors to what they're calling a brand new university, offering bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and things like artificial intelligence, computer science, cybersecurity, health informatics. All the courses are blended with, and this is mandatory, not optional, Islamic studies coursework. And they start recruiting students internationally. They even have a special program to enroll students from Pakistan. No U.S. visa required. Just one problem. They never asked Texas for permission. And Texas just found out. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, celebrating yet another glorious day in the Trumpian golden age that you made possible back in November of 2024. So if you want a front row seat on how you continue to change the world in ways you never even imagined, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. So let me introduce you to an organization registered with the Texas Secretary of State as the Texas American Muslim Institute of Technology at Dallas. But don't call it that because they don't call it that. They call it, and I want you to notice every single word here, Texas American Muslim University at Dallas, or just simply Tex AM University. Kind of sounds like Texas A&M, doesn't it? Well, we'll come back to that in a moment. Now, Tex AM is reportedly based out of a building at 1100 East Campbell Road in Richardson, which, by the way, is the same building that houses the Dallas Diyanet Mosque and the Islamic Seminary of America. So it isn't exactly a standalone campus the size of UT Austin or anything like that. But you wouldn't know that from their website. Their website described Tex AM as, quote, the first university in the United States offering STEM degree programs combined with mandatory Islamic study courses. Mandatory, note, not optional, not a minor elective on the side. Mandatory Islamic studies for every student in every program. And they weren't shy about it. They were aggressively marketing bachelor's degrees in computer science, IT, cybersecurity, and health informatics, a master's degree in AI, artificial intelligence. They were advertising online enrollment. And here's the part that really got people's attention. Apparently, they had a special initiative allowing Pakistani students to earn a Tex AM bachelor's degree without ever applying for a U.S. student visa. Now think about that. A Texas-based, quote, university with no state authorization, no accreditation, sharing a building with a mosque, offering degrees to foreign nationals overseas, no visa required. And in literally no time, Texas officials noticed. On May 7th, Governor Greg Abbott personally directed the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board to issue a formal cease and desist order against Tex AM. Abbott posted on X, quote, I directed the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board to issue a cease and desist to Tex AM, an unauthorized Islamic educational institution operating illegally in Texas. If they refuse to comply, legal action will follow. Texas will not allow illegal educational institutions to operate in our state. The Texas Higher Education Board's letter was absolutely devastating in its specificity. Under Chapter 61 of the Texas Education Code, any private post-secondary institution operating in Texas must hold a certificate of authority issued by the state before it can offer courses or grant degrees. Now, obviously, Tex AM has never held that certificate, not once. They never applied. They never received approval. They simply started calling themselves a university and went into business. The letter spelled out the violations in clinical terms. First, Tex AM is prohibited by law from granting or offering to grant degrees. Second, even using the word university without a certificate of authority is a separate criminal violation under Texas law. Third, the advertising of degree programs must stop immediately. Fourth, all student enrollment must stop immediately. And the deadline for that, May 8th, the following day. This was issued on May 7th. The deadline was May 8th. They were given literally 24 hours to comply, 1 day to sign a letter confirming that they had voluntarily, permanently, and immediately ceased all advertising, enrollment, and use of protected terms. Failure to comply? Referral to the Texas Attorney General and local district attorneys for criminal prosecution. That's not a slap on the wrist. That's Texas saying you're done. But if you thought it stopped there, you'd be wrong. If you thought one cease and desist letter was enough for 1 week, hold on. This is Texas, and things were about to get a whole lot worse. But first, gang, what if I told you there's a little-known arbitrage play hiding inside a $30 billion market, and regular people with zero background in finance or tech are quietly generating $5,000, $10,000, even $20,000 a month from it, using nothing but a laptop? I know it sounds almost too good to be true, but here's what's actually going on. There's a significant and very real pricing gap in the used book market. The same book can be worth dramatically different amounts depending on where it's listed. And the people who've learned how to spot and exploit that gap are building serious, sustainable income. And what makes this unlike anything else I've come across, you never actually handle a single physical book. No inventory sitting in your garage, no trips to the post office, no physical logistics whatsoever. The whole thing runs from your browser. You identify the opportunity, you make a few clicks, and the fulfillment side is handled entirely by someone else. And I want to be clear, this isn't a side hustle that just pads your grocery budget. This is a real business model that people are running full-time right now, many of them having walked away from jobs they didn't love to do. That's why I'm personally hosting a free training where I'm going to walk you through exactly how this system works, start to finish. No filler, no theory, just the actual mechanics of how to find the opportunities and what to do with them. I've gone deep on this, gang, and I'm genuinely excited to show you what I found. Click the link below or type bkprofit.com/Turley in your browser or scan the QR code on your screen to reserve your free spot right now. You do not want to miss this one. As it turns out, the Texas government was the least of this Muslim university's problems. The very next day after they got that cease and desist letter from the state, Texas A&M University dropped their own cease and desist letter. Texas A&M Chancellor Glenn Hagar posted, quote, "The Texas A&M University system has a responsibility to protect the name and trademarks which represent more than a century of academic excellence, public trust, and institutional integrity. When another organization uses branding that's similar, particularly in the same educational space, we must act to prevent confusion and protect the value of those marks." At this point, between the state of Texas and the Texas A&M University system, both coming after them, the legal exposure for this Islamic organization was extraordinary, and they folded. They folded very, very fast. In fact, I visited their website today and found it was down. Now, there is a rather interesting political connection to all of this. The mayor of this town, Richardson, just north of Dallas, is a fellow by the name of Amir Omar. And as you may have guessed, yes, he is a Muslim. I believe he's the first Muslim to be elected to political office in North Texas. And as it turns out, he happened to publicly endorse this Tex AM project. Now, of course, Mayor Omar has the right to endorse whatever educational initiatives he chooses, but the optics of the sitting mayor of Richardson publicly backing an unaccredited institution that was operating outside state law, that's bad enough. But the optics of a Muslim mayor backing an unaccredited institution, aggressively recruiting overseas students through a no-visa program, particularly from Pakistan, that's a story worth noting. Now, if you don't know, Richardson is part of what's often called the Muslim Belt of the Dallas suburbs, with one of the largest Muslim populations in Texas. And when local political figures are actively championing institutions with which they share a religious affinity, but they're flouting state educational law, it does raise legitimate questions about oversight and accountability. Now, this wasn't the first time we saw something akin to this in Texas. In Josephine, Texas, a thriving suburb, yes, north of Dallas, for the last several years, right under the nose of local officials, a radical Islamic organization has been quietly building what amounted to a self-contained parallel society, complete with its own mosque, its own Islamic school, its own medical clinic, 74 homes sold exclusively to affiliated Muslims, a Muslim-only enclave right here in the United States of America in Texas. They called it Epic City, but Texans called it something else, and then they did something about it. The planned city was shut down by the combined force of Governor Abbott, Attorney General Paxton, 12 state agencies, and a HUD fair housing investigation. Texas Republican primary voters then went to the ballot box and voted 95% in favor of banning Sharia law from Texas courts, and Governor Abbott wasted no time signing that ban into law. What we're seeing playing out here in Texas is a radically cultural form of politics known as civilizational populism. And it's reshaping the entire landscape of Western democracies in ways that neither the left nor the establishment right fully understands yet. So this isn't your grandfather's culture war here. This isn't an argument about tax rates or regulatory policies. This is something far deeper. It's a civilizational reckoning. People across the Western world are waking up to the fact that their way of life, their history, their faith, their families, their very identity as a people is not guaranteed. It has to be defended. Civilizational populism says borders matter, culture matters, heritage matters. And when institutions, the universities, the media, the courts, the administrative state stop serving the civilization that built them, the people have not just the right, but the duty to reclaim them. And so what's so extraordinary about this moment is that it's not a fringe movement anymore. You're watching civilizational populism govern. You're watching it legislate. You're watching it reshape courts, shut down rogue institutions, defend sovereign borders, and project military power in defense of Western strategic interests. This is civilizational populism, not in theory, but in action. And the people driving it, they're not going back. After all, you never mess with Texas.